just release some pressure. Okay, so I'm testing out an air shock solution for the Talon problem of not getting in the garage. This is a Monroe air shock off of like a 2013 F-150. So it's got the air bladder down here and it's also a shock. And I'm trying to see if I can replace the entire coilover over there with just the shock. So go up to 150 PSI, I've got 100 PSI in it right now. And I'll let the air out and see how much it changes. Now I got the stock shock on one side for now. Eventually I'll do both. It's almost a direct swap. The shock length is really good. The only problem is that the eyes are a little bit too wide. So you have to grind the eyes down a little bit, which I've had to do with a few shocks. So just a straighter valve and a piece of hose. So let's see how much it drops down with the pressure out. Oh. Slammed Talon. That's amazing. That fit in the garage right there, just the one side done. Look at that negative axle angle. Oh, that made a bigger difference than I thought it would. Plenty of travel. That looks so funny. Wow, that worked better than I thought. All right, I guess I'll do both sides now and see what kind of range of travel we get. These are also really cheap. They're 80 bucks for the pair. So if this ends up working out, it'd be completely hilarious. Right, there she is, boys. Air shock conversion. Netted me about 6 inches of suspension lift with 8-inch portals. Pretty gnarly. That's not even at full down travel. I'll have to add some limiting shocks. There's the air shock. Oh yeah. Obviously I need to finish plumbing it all in, but looks pretty mean. I think those CV joint angles are a bit extreme. What do you guys think? Let me know. Just kidding. All right, so that's about 100 PSI. Let's see how much it sags. No, not, it doesn't sag much. So I'm gonna have to get someone to video this so I can drive it around. Just aren't nearly as strong as I thought they were. But boy, that'll definitely fit in the garage. We call that slammed Talon. Alright, so guys, what's going on here? Doing some experimentation. We're learning that these Monroe helper shocks, which are designed to throw on your F-150, they give you 1,500 pounds more capacity on a truck. The problem with the truck is, you know, this is all, I expected all of this by the way. On a truck, the shock sits directly on top of the axle. On this, it's hooked to a trailing arm, about halfway between the point and the wheel, so it's got a lot of leverage on it. So even though those two shocks can theoretically give you 1,500 pounds of lift at 150 PSI, you know, I'm only getting the weight carrying capacity of 750 pounds probably, because, you know, of that motion ratio of mounting it in the center of the arm versus back here. So I could move it back, right, to give it better leverage, but I don't quite think that's going to do it. I also don't have a pump right now that can go to 150 PSI. I need to find a bike pump or something. Probably have one somewhere. So that's part of the problem. I need to get more pressure. But the real issue right now is those things just don't have the surface area for the pressure to act on to hold the weight of the Talon, which is pretty heavy. I could take the cooler out. That might help a little bit. But as you can see, it's pretty much bottomed out right now at 110 PSI. Now, yes, we did achieve the thing we wanted to do, which was that it will fit in the garage, so we'll test that now. However, we can't really ride it around like this, right? Because it's currently got the ground clearance of a regular Talon, and that's just unacceptable. But it does look hilarious. Ta-da! It's in the garage. It's obviously this did not quite work. Need more lifting power, or basically need more spring rate. That's 100 PSI right there, and it's still pretty much bottomed out. So I do have a couple options. I could double up and put two of these shocks, put one, you know, on the side of it to have 2 and 2. That's a thing I could try. There's almost enough room. I'd have to probably trim some plastics to make that happen. But that's an option. you know, just basically add a tab here and a longer bolt so you have two side by side. That should give me the lifting force I require. The other option is to put them in conjunction with the stock shock, just to have a little bit of adjustability. But then, you know, where do I mount them and all that stuff comes into play. I'd have to mount them in a place where they were not the limiting factor of the suspension travel, which would be kind of tricky because that's really the only spot that's designed to have a shock mounted to this control arm. See, it's all trussed up and everything. But yeah, that's 100 PSI right there. And I knew this probably wouldn't work, right? This is just supposed to be a helper spring, but the problem is the Talon, most of its weight's in the back. It's right by the engine, so it's pretty back heavy. If it was 50-50 weight distribution, this would almost work by my calculations. So one thing I'm going to try is I'm going to find an air compressor that goes up a little higher PSI so I can get 150 in there. Right now there's 100. That's not enough, obviously. So we'll try putting some more PSI and see if that gets us any closer, but pretty much back to the drawing board. One thing that's interesting is that because these shocks are cross-linked, meaning that they go to each other, then to the valve, this would actually help it flex, right? Because as one side went up, air could flow to the other side. Obviously the sway bar is going to fight that, but it'll flex better than the factory shock because the spring rates are related to one another. So that's kind of an interesting thing there. But it looks really funny slammed like this, and it does prove that if you slam it, I could fit it in the garage by a couple of inches on the 8-inch portals in the 38s. Well, look at the angle on that portal box, without chopping the cage or any of that stuff that you guys love spending huge amounts of money on to look special, because everyone's got to be different. Anyways, but interesting little project for this afternoon. Not 100% successful, but that's how you learn, guys. You learn by failure. PSI, and now I'm going to let the weight down, and it's going to go to like 200 PSI. Will it bottom out? Oh! Okay, what PSI are we at now? Let me turn this on, I should go to CPSI. 160 PSI. Alright, I'm going to put some weight on it and see how much it sags. That's it right there, look. It's supporting itself. It's suspended. So that's not amazing, but it's closer than I thought. So that right there is 176 PSI, but that's suspension. So it was just staying up because of the force and the suspension stuff. But look at that, I mean. Amazing. Closer than we thought. This right here, very hard. A lot of pressure in there. Put it in 80 PSI, I'm going to get in it and try to drive it and see if it bottoms out when I roll forward. Woo! So it should rock a lot. Yeah, look at that. Because they're cross-linked, so the air can go from one side to the other. So, a little bit of success there. That is suspension. It's not bottomed out. Man, those shocks just need to be about half an inch bigger in diameter. They'd work perfect.
If you're interested in this mod, check the description. There's a link to the shocks that I used, as well as a entire parts list of all of these shocks with all the dimensions if you want to try to do this on a 4-wheeler or Talon or whatever. Just fun stuff to play with. It's super cheap, so go at it.